Hi, I'm OddBod, this is Gato Roboto. This time surely I won't forget to call Leo for the timer, so we're gonna start in 3, 2, 1, go. Oops. Alright. So Gato Roboto is a 2D indie platformer Metroidvania-ish game. It's a lot of titles. You see I play as this cat, it's called Kiki. The general plot idea I suppose of this game is that we crash with a rocket on a foreign planet, and our owner can't leave the rocket, or the rocket ship or whatever, and so he sends out us to explore the planet for him. And so for now we're the cat, which has its own unique movement, but as you'll see in just a second, I'll stand on the save point here, rotates my game, heals me full, and most importantly I'm now in a mech, which is sort of the main mechanic of this game, so I can switch between cat and mech. And cat dies in one hit, has very slippery, fast movement with wall climbing and stuff. The mech is a lot more, well, a lot slower I suppose. But of course, this being Metroidvania, we eventually pick up items and upgrades to, go quite fast and, get a bunch of movement upgrades. So for now I'm picking up a health upgrade here, because of course this is 100%, so there's a bunch of items you have to get that aren't necessary, but, it's nice. I can't actually go in the water with the mech, so that's one of the main things with this, so that's why I had to go across the bridge here. And now, for now, we're just gonna make our way through landing site, which is this, sort of tutorial level, I suppose, and go over to where our first upgrade will be eventually. Some other mechanics, I suppose, I can explain about the game. Until then, are when it comes to shooting, you see I can actually spam the shoot button here. But what you'll see me do here in the first arena fight, or I suppose the second arena fight, is space out my shots. And the reason that is, it's not quite intuitive, but every time you shoot an enemy, he, or, hurt him in any way, they will, get some invulnerability frames, so you can't hurt them again. So it turns out mashing doesn't actually, isn't faster, doesn't do more damage, because, every single, or every second or third shot just misses on them, because they iframe through it. So I space out my shots there to just align with their, iframes, and we hit them like that. And now here's our first upgrade, the rocket module. And of course in the cat I can't use it, who could have guessed. But eventually, once again in the mech again, that will be one of, the most useful items. Yeah, very important. You see these crumbling blocks that we're supposed to destroy with them, but it actually turns out to be faster to just go back this cat way that we came through with, so I'll just do that. And then, as I get in my mech, the first big glitch coming up, and really the biggest glitch of this game that sort of the entire route revolves around, called small mech. So, we're gonna go to the checkpoint now, gonna eject, and then sort of enter from the side, and then, okay, not quite. This is a frame-perfect trick at 60 FPS, so it might take... Okay, cool. So you see a boss bar at the top there, but no boss to be seen, he's invisible. The reason that is because I'm in this glitch state called small mech. So what happened there is, ejecting, obviously, ejects me out of the mech and puts me into cat state. Saving, always puts me into mech state. So if you do the same thing, all, those two actions on the same frame, the game tries to put you in both states at once, and it can't really do that, so it puts you into this glitch state where you have certain properties of the mech, such as, being able to... Oops. I'm just gonna fix that now real quick, give me a sec. And there we go. Okay, cool. Wait, did I do that? Did I go offline? Okay. Nice. Had to restart PC, so that's why that was like that. But anyway, I was talking about small mech. So I have certain properties of the mech, as in just being in the mech. Also, I should have noted I ejected that to get an item, so I'm not in the state right now anymore. But I'm now just in normal mech. But when I will be in small mech again eventually, I have certain properties of the mech, just being able to use all my abilities and miss this jump, absolutely intentional. And you're actually supposed to have an upgrade here, so this is like a neat little skip. But yeah, and then other properties I have of the cat in the thing, in the small mech state. So for one, my hitbox will be smaller. Normally my hitbox is 2 blocks high. In small mech it's only 1 block high because, I have cat hitbox, which will be very useful. Oh my god, I'm getting owned right now. Oh. Okay, I have to play it safe a bit. Normally I just damage boost through half of this, but... Okay, there we go. But yeah, the other thing is that, certain encounters, such as bosses, which is why I skipped the boss, or just certain arena fights, they're hard-coded to, only be triggered when you're actually in mech form. So, the game, in that sense, thinks you're in cat, so it skips a lot of these encounters in small mech, and again, that's just insanely useful, and I'll point it out in a bunch of places. For now, I guess I'll just explain the rocket real quick, because I never really did so, because of some difficulties, but, yeah, you see, in the left corner, there's this like heat meter, so it fills up every time I shoot a rocket, and you know, eventually cools down again, so I can shoot more rockets again. And they're quite useful in both combat and movement. You see me boost up a bunch, so every time I shoot against the wall, it explodes and like boosts me up. Or I can shoot downwards or upwards to like give me acceleration in those two directions. And yeah. So now going to Nexus is what this place is called, and it's, well, the main hub of this game. So there's 3 dungeons to access from here, and we're gonna go into the first one called Aqueducts. And in Aqueducts, the main gimmick is that you're supposed to like leave your mech and go into the submarine mech, because the mech can't go into water, and with that being said, I'm in the water with the mech now, so... So what happened there is, the way the water works is it only like blocks you from entering it, so only the surface actually you can't go through with the mech. Once you're in the water, you can pretty much play as normal, so I can do a little trick there where I shoot a rocket as I eject, and it sort of pushes me over the edge, and then the mech just falls into the water while I'm not in it, and then I can enter it underwater. This is actually a jump that is way harder than it looks, I swear to God. I'm not kidding, this is actually very tight. Every Gato runner will tell you that. Okay, there we go. And now I exit the mech here. I have to concentrate here for a sec, because if I get hit, I die, because cat is insta-death. Okay, we're through. So, the way this dungeon works is normally there's these pumps right here. This is the first one, or the first one we're gonna get. And they all like decrease the water level incrementally. So normally you're just supposed to do them in one order, so 1, 2, 3. This is the third one first with water mech, and that will break the dungeon substantially as we go on. Because now, you know, the water level is already drained a bit when it's not supposed to be. And we're already pretty much at the end of the dungeon. Like, to the left of me right here would be the boss of the dungeon that we never see. In general, there's like 2 mini-bosses and 1 boss per most dungeons, except for Vents only has 1 mini-boss, but whatever. And yeah, we won't see many of them because Smallback is just that busted. And now we're gonna pick up one of the best upgrades in the game. So this is a spin module, it's a double jump, pretty much. Although it turns, you know, has a bit of a... I was about to say a bit of a spin on the whole thing, but that would have been a pun. It puts a bit of a twist, let's say, on you know, the whole double jump mechanics. There's some properties about this that, you know, are not as with normal double jumps. So, you know, I spin and I can spin on enemies such as that, and they take damage. And so that's nice. The other thing is you see me do this like spin boosting / rocket boosting technique. Also a small fast water mech here. Okay, there we go. And so essentially, you know, whenever I'm in the spin state, I'm more susceptible, I suppose, to pushback and momentum. So I can shoot myself, or I can go into spin, then turn around, shoot like a missile or 2, and it sort of gives me momentum in the other direction. And that will be our main movement option for a bit here. For now, I'm just gonna make my way over to what will eventually be the first pump that you're supposed to do. Just taking the shortcut, or not shortcut, like this extra room here to get an upgrade eventually. Where, again, we're playing 100%, so I have to get everything. These cartridge modules I'm picking up, by the way, don't do anything for a while. They just like unlock palettes, so they like, you know, this is a 1-bit game in terms of colors, so just you can swap the colors. So only a static, but eventually actually do something. And we have to get them anyway because 100%. And yeah, so anyway, talking about the dungeon structure again. Right now I'm in the first area, and you're supposed to like, pretty much in this entire dungeon, you know, go out of your mech and then take the submarine mech, which is way slower and just works completely different. And then, you know, do a bunch of stuff. For instance, right here on to the left will be a mini-boss that we're supposed to fight, but we can, you know, come through the way that we would normally backtrack because the water is drained and just skip that mini-boss. And so, yeah, you know, again, that's just enabled by the fact that we got to the third pump first, so... the order we're gonna do now is, again, after the third pump first, we're now gonna do the first one because that doesn't have water at that point. And now we're gonna go to the second one because that also won't have water after we activate that pump that we just did. We're gonna get a quick small mech here. Again, you can kind of see the glitch state. I look a bit weird, kind of smaller, gun in the bottom. All kinds of messed up. Like I saves our way over here, which is another upgrade, again, just for 100%. The general route of 100% through this dungeon is a bit of the same as any percent, but we just have to go out of our way for some upgrades. That will change once we get to some other dungeons that are quite different in this category compared to any percent. Have some really neat routing. So now, again, we're gonna go over to the second section, which now is also completely drained. You can kind of see that, like, transparent pipe, like, that is supposed to only be, you know, transmissible, I suppose, by submarine. Gonna pick another health upgrade here. And now just spin boost our way to victory. Bunch of cool movement here. It's just that. And then, I guess I can already talk about it. Coming up again is a mini-boss. One of the 2 mini-bosses of this dungeon that we skipped. We're gonna see him. We can't like completely skip and like ask him just, you know, never enter his arena. It's a turret that is right there, but again, one of the big properties of small mech is the fact that certain AIs and like certain things are just coded in a way where they only work when you actually enter the room as mech. And right here you see the turret is supposed to move and do a bunch of stuff, but because we technically, or at least the game thinks that we entered this room as a cat, it doesn't do any of that. So we can just sit here, kill it. I exit the mech, so now I'm in normal form again. So now after I kill this thing, I activate the trigger and it realizes that he's dead instantly and just lets me out. And so now we activate the final pump and are done with the dungeon. This is like the dungeon clear objective of this, of this dungeon. Well, and you know, like intuitively, I suppose we got the item from this dungeon first, the double jump, and you know, you would think that we can just leave after that. But we do need to beat all dungeons. There's 3 of them total because it will eventually be the gateway into the end game. And small mech is not being nice to me. Okay, there we go. Again, this is a 1-frame trick, so I'm bound to miss them. Like, I think even my any percent time, which was world record, when I said it has 1 fail of these out of like 5, like you have to do 5 total. I failed 1. Like it's you're not gonna hit all of them at 60 FPS 1-frame trick. But anyway, making ourselves our way out here, rather. Just climbing up this again, and then again, eventually we'll be in the Nexus again, where there's a couple upgrades that we need to pick, just again for 100%. So the way the Nexus works is just left side is Aqueducts and the other 2 dungeons on the right side. So I'm just gonna grab the 2 items that are on the left side here, just so I don't have to backtrack here at any point again. So there's one right here, which you're supposed to go into cat as, but mech is just faster with small mech, and that's part of the reason why we got small mech there. That was a messed up spin boost. There we go. And then up here again, you can, in an arena that's coming up, you can see that I'm just shooting the air, kinda. That is again because they actually are enemies, and you can hear that, you know, something died there. And I missed the missile, so I'll just wait for a sec. So as enemies are spawned, they're just invisible for now, and like, you know, not like loaded in properly, I suppose, but you can kill them. So that's why I just shoot random missiles there. And so now I couldn't kill those guys though, because they... like their initial state, I suppose, isn't actually vulnerable because they kind of spawn in the ceiling, as you maybe saw there. I have to wait for them to come out of the ceiling, so I can't hurt them until then. So we have to trigger them. And now, sadly, exiting there gets me out of small mech, so I have to get it here again after getting the final upgrade, which is a bit of a shame, but oh well. With how good small mech is, it's worth. And there we go. Right here, by the way, you see this robot thing, which is like, you know, a bunch of check marks. You saw the first check mark for Aqueducts. That's eventually where, you know, again, we need to beat all 3 dungeons, then go there to actually trigger the end game. So now into the second dungeon, which is called Heater Core. Kind of see the screen is a bit waving, and it's supposed to like resemble heat. Sort of the gimmick of this dungeon is the fact that you can't exit the mech. You see, like in the bottom right corner, the eject button is grayed out, sort of. Because I suppose it's hot for the cat, I think, is what they, you know, what the reasoning is. So you would think that small mech is really busted in here, and you would think right, because a lot of this dungeon is sort of designed around the fact that eventually, actually, when you beat it, you can't, like, the heat goes away and you can, you know, traverse this as cat. So there's like one-way shortcuts, or there's supposed to be one-way shortcuts such as that I would just walk through. You know, that again, you wouldn't be able to take until the very end of the dungeon. But I just went through this. So there's pretty much 3 parts of this, and I just skipped the entire first third. Pretty much all are separated by a minibus. So I connected from the start to the second third now, which is where I'm at. And I messed it up slightly. Also, real quick, here's a cool cycle skip like that. Pretty sweet. And now eventually I'll, again, there's a connection or sort of a backtrack way that you're not supposed to be able to get to until the very end of the dungeon, but we can take it with small mech. Right to the right of me would be the second miniboss, and we can just go over here and connect to the very end of the dungeon. This is coolant. This would be the final item of the dungeon. And right here we're in the pipe room, which is the clear objective. So after I clear these pipes, the heat is gone, and you know, the dungeon is beat. And really quick, what coolant does, it pretty much just increases the heat gauge on the left, or gauge rather, whatever. And then we go down here. By the way, that was the boss. We just said hi real quick. Kind of walked past him. And so the routing actually in this dungeon is very interesting. If you have played this game, it sort of looks unintuitive. And, well, it very much is. I tried a lot of routing this, but the problem is that because we played this in such an unintended way, like a lot of the rooms that you would normally be able to like faster connect through where we want to go, they're blocked off by one-way gates that would normally be you know, cleared because they're connected to like some arenas. So you beat the arena and then the thing is cleared. Also, hi second mini boss, what's up, dudes? Go down here. Again, their AI doesn't work because small mech. So here's a kind of hard trick. Hope I get it. Yup, nice. And yeah, so kind of the way I have to play this now, because again, there's so many better ways to get through this dungeon, but I just can't take any of them because I'll be blocked off by arenas I never beat. So I just kind of have to like trace back my steps for a bit and then just go out of the way to where the extra items are that I couldn't collect earlier. Over here is what is arguably the best item in the game, and one of the few items actually required to beat the game, in low percent face dash. This thing is so good. You see, well, it's a dash immediately. You just dash forward, left or right, but you're also fully invulnerable during it, so that's quite neat. And, you know, now sort of the entire spin boosting aspect of the game, you know, is not quite as relevant anymore because now we have pretty much a better movement option. And that's really one of the like big themes with this game. I mean, really with any Metroidvania, of course. Like every Metroidvania, you know, pick up items, get stronger, do different stuff. But with this game, especially in speedrunning, it's so pronounced, I feel like, because movement just changes so drastically every time you pick something up. Like before I had the spin module, I had to like, you know, just optimize my jumps and like do certain like little rocket boosts on the side to gain height. In CAD I have completely different movement, and you know, with spin boosting I have completely different movement. And now with dash eventually, this is okay. With dash eventually I have again completely different movements. So that's something quite neat about this game. Just the variety you get during one play. And now we're pretty much done with Heater Core. There's one more item I need to get real quick on the way out. Down here. By the way, all of this previously was lava, so it now turned into these crumbling blocks after we cleared the dungeon. Okay, and now we're pretty much out, and that's 2 out of 3 dungeons, so... So... Just to the right of it is vents, which is, or the ventilation shafts, which is the final dungeon we're gonna have to beat to actually get access to the end. And vents is almost like, in a way, the opposite of Heater Core. Heater Core is like you only play as mech, you can't exit into CAD. Vents is the opposite. By the way, in this area right now, I shouldn't even be as mech. Like, this is CAD only, pretty much. This dungeon is, at least the first half is CAD only. So again, just as Heater Core, it's probably designed around the fact that you can't use mech here anywhere. And yeah, well, we just go to left here, and right here you should never connect, and this connection goes right to the end of the dungeon, so that's the first thing we're gonna do. I'm gonna have to care really quick, because I can soft lock here. Okay, there we go. A very hard boss coming up, actually. Let's concentrate for a sec. I was kidding, it wasn't hard. So that boss is exactly as trivial as it looks. And the reason that is again, you're not supposed to be here as mechs. You saw these like small little turrets to the left and right. You're supposed to enter them as CAD, and then like you charge them up and they shoot lasers, and it's a very like interesting fight. But yeah, well, I just shoot them with rockets because I'm a mech here. And now the reason I did this is because the way vents work is again sort of similar to Aqueducts, where incrementally you kind of have to hit buttons to activate or deactivate certain vents, such as that one right there. That would normally be like a wind pushing you upwards and blocking you off. And because I cleared the final button, it like, you know, checks all the flags, I suppose, and clears or unclears all the vents that would normally be on or off. And so now I can connect right from the very start of the dungeon was that to what right now we're in the mini boss pretty much. So this would be sort of the halfway point of the dungeon. So up until now, from the very start to the right, there would be like the entire CAD section, which is again the first half of the dungeon where you can only play as CAD. And then this mini boss is sort of what connects to the second half, which actually enables you to go into mech. And, well, again, we just kind of went there instantly because there's a neat little backtrack there that you're not supposed to get until we beat the dungeon, but we beat the dungeon already because we just got there instantly. So now, right now, down here, again, this is sort of exactly the halfway point. I'm gonna get a quick small mech and go to the right here. Big shot module is over here, which is a nice upgrade, just doubles the damage my shots do. So that's neat, and of course I need it for Hundo. And then to the left here I would normally go to actually connect to the end of the dungeon. So right here again, this is the second half of the dungeon, where I would go to the left and do the entire mech section, but I can just barely clip up here with small mech. Normally I would connect from right there and had to backtrack through the cat section, which I don't have to do now at all, because again I can just kind of climb up there with small mech. And right here this is like a, well, secret quote-unquote room, like a, you know, like an extra path to get an item. And I just go here so much easier with small mech. And I'm just gonna have to clear a bunch of arenas here for a while, and then finally, eventually, find my item, which is a cassette or cartridge or whatever the heck they're called. And now I have to backtrack to where I was originally. Normally there's a path up there next to the item that connects to the very start of the dungeon, but we don't quite want to go there. Because what we're gonna do is we're gonna go small mech, and we're gonna go backwards through the dungeon with mech. That would normally be cat section. So all of this would be cat section. I would normally go to the right here instead of the left. So I'm backtracking backwards through this. I just kind of clear a bunch of stuff. Like these blocks would normally be, you had to bait the trillbot to trill for you, just like this one. Like you would normally just have to stand here as a cat and bait this guy. I can just blow it up with rockets because, again, I'm a mech. Which you're not supposed to be. And now I'm just gonna keep backtracking through this cat section the wrong way around to eventually get to the start of the dungeon again. And then at the very start of the dungeon, you know, we cleared the mini-boss earlier, and to the left of the mini-boss there's another item that we have to get real quick, so, and then we're pretty much done with friends. So I'll just do that. Over here, again, this is the start. Go down here, here, and then this is where we fought the mini-boss earlier. And cartridge module, and just go to the left here. And so something I didn't point out so far, but something that is quite integral to like how we routed this is the fact that I have to leave here a small mech again. If I don't leave here a small mech, I'm soft locked. Like, game's over. The save file is corrupted, pretty much. Well, actually, that's not quite true. Is it? Well, more or less. I have to get small mech here at some point. I can't exit this any other way. And because I can't get out of here otherwise. So that's the issue. So a lot of the routing sort of revolves around the fact that I eventually have to exit with small mech. And so now that's all 3 dungeons down. I'm just going to get the remaining items in Nexus. There's 2 more. Over here is again a good example of AI just not loading. And, you know, enemies not loading. You see me shoot a bunch of rockets to kill invisible enemies. Just like that. And for anybody wondering, like, damn, small mech looks hella busted. Yes. So in any percent it saves about like 10 minutes on a 30-minute run otherwise. So any percent without small mech is like 30 minutes. Any percent with small mech is 20. In 100% it's harder to tell how much it saves, but you know you can assume it's probably like similar amounts. In a game this short, 10 minutes is quite a lot. And now that's all items in the Nexus down, and actually almost all items. So you see this little button here I'm supposed to press normally to like trigger sort of the ending, also one of the ending events I suppose. After I get all 3 checkmarks there from all 3 dungeons, I hit that button and there's a cutscene that plays where you know your owner I suppose like gets attacked and you have to go back to the ship to eventually get the decoder. I don't actually have to hit that button. You can barely get up to where the decoder is. Anyway, all it does, like, all that cutscene does is, like, lower this loading plane I'm about to hit. But I can just get up there with a bunch of rocket boosts like that. And that gets me the coder early. And for a while, actually, we thought the coder early would be the absolute holy grail of this game. Sadly, it isn't. So, the coder is, you know, intuitively what you need to actually go into the final area now, which we're going to go to right now, which is Incubator. Problem is, it actually isn't. What we actually need is the 3 check marks on top of the coder. So, if we would find some way to get into Incubator early, that would be the holy grail of this game, because then, I mean, 100% wouldn't matter as much, but any percent we could just go right here. The only thing we need to beat the game are rockets and dash, that's it. And the coder. Well, I guess we could skip the coder then, that way. But yeah, we're gonna go in here, which is Incubator, just get the final item right here, almost the final item. Second to last pickup in the game, assuming I didn't miss anything. And gonna backtrack real quick to finally actually make use of the cartridge module. So I'm gonna talk to an NPC called Reba, and pretty much she gives me items for collecting certain amounts of cartridges. So for 7 she gives me an item called Repeater, which essentially just allows me to hold down the shoot button to shoot fast, like on you know, as if I were mashing perfectly. And then for 14 she gives me an item called Hopper, which is pretty awesome. Essentially what it does is every time I dash I get a double jump back. So you'll see eventually I can just pretty much fly at this point. Much like, you know, I think it's called Spacer in Metroid at the very end, right? Pretty much just jump infinitely in the air. So yeah, anyway, I was talking about getting to this area, Incubator early. Again, that would be the absolute best thing. We have tried a couple of things. You can actually clip out of bounds in this game. It turns out to not be very useful. There's like one use in low percent, and that's pretty much it, sadly. And yeah, like we try to like get to that area out of bounds. It doesn't quite work, at least, you know, from what we tested, but it's looking pretty hopeless in general, like, sadly, with just like the way loadings works. And also right here, like, again, this is Hopper doing, so every time I dash I get my jump back. And I just get the final item, and this should be 100%, very much so. So now we just have to beat the game, and, well, if I make it up there. So Incubator, normally quite the difficult area. And I mean, even Hando, I guess, still in a difficult area. Although a lot of the late game in this game is, on this route at least, is sort of trivialized by the fact that we have as much HP as we have. Any percent, this is really intense. In Hando, it's still quite cool, but, you know, not quite as intense. Gonna get the second to last moment of the game right there. And the reason that is for what is one of the worst rooms in the game right here. This room, every AI is disabled with small mech, and man, well, I tell you, I played low percent. Low percent, you have nothing. You have dash and missiles. That's it. I played this room on low percent before we found small mech. It was hell. Because you can't even jump up these little things right here, right there. You can't even jump up there normally. You have to shoot a missile every time. Also, there I'm shooting what looks like a random missile. The reason that is because again, there's invisible enemies there I'm killing. The only problem is this guy. I can't kill him during, you know, while he's invisible, because again, his initial state is not vulnerable. So I have to like actually let him run against the wall, and only then he's vulnerable. Quick safety save here for a sec. And now, actually, this room, interestingly enough, is the only reason we know that we actually need dash. So if this room didn't exist, low percent wouldn't even get dash. Shout out to low percent. That category is quite something. And now, final water mech of the game is over here. Normally, you're supposed to like, okay, cool. You know, put your mech up there on these like conveyor thingies, and then go clear the room with submarine, and then yada yada yada, and yeah, well, you know, all skipped by this. And so upcoming is sort of the connection between this area and the very final area called Laboratory. It's this massive elevator with a bunch of RNG going on, and, you know, just a bit of an auto-scroller. So if you do have any donations, now's the time. I guess that's a no. Lieber, do you have donations? No? Sweet. Alright, cool. Oh, okay, sorry then. My bad. Alright, well then, I guess we'll just talk about this auto-scroller. So right now, you see, like, the first pattern is this, where it shoots these bullets down, and shoots frogs, and you have to kill them fast. And then eventually, right here, there's gonna be 2 of these spawning every time, for, I think, 3 times total. Yup. Just like that. And now, oh, that's a miss. Okay, should still work. And now 2 of these, and then 4 times these frog droppers. Again, this is all pretty much always the same, except for at the very start, the frogs like where they drop his RNG, but. And now we're going to the final phase where it just drops random enemies once in a while, and I have to kill them. Oops. This again would actually be quite intense in any percent. 100% just makes it way easier because with Big Shot. So with Big Shot we can one-shot these frogs in particular, which is very nice. Normally you would either have to expend a rocket for that, or, you know, shoot on them a bunch of times. And now final small mech of the game, which I didn't get. That's a frame late. When I can exit like the save instantly, it's a frame late. Okay, cool. There we go. Hello? Alright. So Laboratory is quite a hard area and actually introduces a bunch of new enemies that we have to fight now. Right here would be an arena, by the way, that we can skip because small mech. Right there we can also just walk through. Let's make our way over here, where this is an arena that we skip because small mech. This one you actually have to clear. So you see these propeller bot thingies that, like, on the left, I mean, that, like, they jump up and only are vulnerable when they jump up. You have these, like, other propeller bot thingies, I don't know what to call them, like the helicopter dudes, that drop missiles. And these guys are actually the biggest pain in the bum. They're normally really hard to fight, these punch bots. They're only vulnerable after they attack, or like, well, not after they take it. Let's just say they're vulnerable in like very certain parts of the animation. But with repeater, they're sort of trivialized by the fact that I can just hold down the shoot button and they're just stun locked like that. Also, for some reason, I can shoot a missile right through here. I don't know why. Hope this works. Okay. So again, technically you could do these stun lock things on like without repeater, but you would have to have like the most consistent like inhumane mashing. So in any percent, you can really see like how hard they are to fight because you just kind of have to do like this really awkward missile strat where you just shoot missiles at very specific points of the animation. And Hunter, we just sit next to them and hold down the shoot button. So that's nice. What am I doing? Okay, there we go. And so that's actually almost the end of the game. We're coming up on the final boss, which I really want to save before, because if I mess up, I might crash the game. Shouts to that. And I'm actually quite sad about this boss being trivialized, because he's hella cool in my opinion, but it is what it is. So, again, small mech just... okay. I'm just gonna play it safe so I don't crash, rather. But yeah, normally this guy... It's a very cool fight, but again, he's just disabled by small mech, so I can deal a bunch of damage to him before activating him, but, you know, then I have to fight the rest. I think he's gonna have a bit more HP than usually because I kinda messed up the thing there. I didn't want to go overboard because that's why I said you could crash. If you deal too much damage and you actually kill him before triggering him, then, well, game crashes, so... He might have a bit of HP here, so we might actually see a bit of the fight, yeah, okay. Normally he would die in like one missile, but again... We do mistakes. Okay, there we go. And now this final boss would normally be very cool, but again, sadly trivialized by 100% just being busted. Also, I believe there's a bit war between killing and leaving Barkley alive. How's that going? Huh? I don't hear anything over game audio right now. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I need to know, like, ASAP. Oh. Oh yeah, sure. Okay, cool. So apparently leave behind one. So I did a thing there. So you see two mechs on the screen. Normally you're supposed to die in mech, and then well, you just can't, like, you have to do this as cat. But I did like a thing where I could actually keep my mech through this with like a precise kill, and now I can just outrun this guy when I'm not only supposed to, and I can actually reach the airship that ends the game before him, and he just left behind. And now times. So that's what you donated for. Thanks for donating. Yeah, the game's fake, guys. 31:53, not too bad, not too bad. Actually, I think we are ahead of schedule, right? Do I have time, like 3 minutes to just show something off? Or like 2 minutes? No, I won't crash it. Oh, okay, thanks. Alright, there's actually this really cool thing I want to show off for this game because I just think it's funny. Shout out to Fish McMuffins. Love you, dude. He found this. Alright, cool. So, essentially what I just did is I did the same thing with small mech, but this time with a dash instead of ejecting. So the game puts me in dash state at the exact same state as it puts me in mech state, so... This is like the funniest glitch to me, because... So I can just, like, I pretty much free fly, like I can just shoot rockets down or up to, like, move upwards horizontally, and obviously, vertically, sorry. And obviously I have free horizontal movement, while in spin state. The funniest thing about this even more so is, I'll show it eventually, that, this guy has to jump at me, please. Okay, I'm just gonna do this. So I'm out of spin state, but the game thinks I'm in dash state, and dash is fully invulnerable, so I'm completely invulnerable while doing this. And that's just... This is the best thing about Gato Roboto. We have a 2D Metroidvania, but you have a glitch that essentially gives you complete, like, horizontal and vertical movement while you're being fully invulnerable, and it's not used in the speedrun in any kind. Alright, that's it. Thanks for watching.